Good morning. I want to welcome all of you who have joined us already today. Before we get started, I just want to go over a few housekeeping notes. Everybody will be placed on mute for the entirety of the call. This is just to ensure there are no interruptions for our presenters. But if you do have questions, we encourage you to submit those through the chat box, which is on your GoToWebinar module. This session is being recorded, so look for those daily emails during the event. They'll direct you on how you can access this recording and others from the event. And yep, sorry, I thought my audio dropped for a minute, but it looks like we're all good. So today's presentation is Hennepin County's Tools 857 upgrade, continuing their fluid journey. Our presenters are Pam Dumick and Edgar Ogechi, and at this time, I'll pass it over to Pam.
Okay, good morning. Thank you. So I just wanted to start off with a little bit about me. So I'm Pam Demick. I'm with Hennepin County, and I've worked for Hennepin for about 30 years. Only the last 6 years have been focused on PeopleSoft. I do want to let you know that most of my life at Hennepin has been in a financial role. So I've operated as a financial manager in several different departments, getting many different perspectives on the business and how they utilize the financial system. And that really has allowed me to grow in my position at Hennepin and in this role that I currently have, which is managing functional business analysts. So on the finance side is my focus. I manage 9 business analysts, and we have several different modules in the system that we are using today. And as you can see from my pictures there, I love the outdoors, no matter what time of year. And that top picture was just last weekend. It was a beautiful sunny day at our lake home, and the one below was actually just in March during the beginning of the COVIDs. So I was out in the middle of the lake, just enjoying life. So with that, let Edgar introduce himself.
All right. I don't like snow, even if I'm in Minnesota, but my name is Edgar Ogechi. I'm an IT manager too. Been with Hennepin County for 4 years. 3 of those years in PeopleSoft. Started as a project manager, did the 855 to 92. I did a lot of get currents, HCM, ELM, portal, fin, you name it. At this time, I'm a manager for the PMO, the Apex, which is our Office of Budget and Finance. I'm responsible for Apex PMO operations, that is enterprise projects. I'm also in charge of the teams associated with the point of sales, online payments, quality assurance control, and IT security. As you can see from my picture over there, and if webcam was working, my love is just hearts, hearts, and more hearts. The picture up there was taken professionally last time we were in Vegas when COVID was not part of this process. Thank you, Pam.
You're welcome. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about Hennepin County, Minnesota. We are the largest county in the state. We are governed by a 7-member elected board, and we have many different lines of business, and that ends up being a little bit of a challenge, but yet very interesting position that we hold, because we are doing anything from HR or county administration. We have a IT department, we have our health and human services, our public safety, Department of Corrections, the sheriff. And then we have the area in public works where they're worrying about building bridges or environment and energy, or of course the security center. And so I wanted to point out that we serve many different types of businesses, and that having that enterprise hat sometimes can be very difficult for our organization. Like Edgar said, our department that supports PeopleSoft is a part of the Office of Budget and Finance, and our department does report directly to the county administrator. And within Apex, which is what we have termed PeopleSoft, our division, We do support the maintenance and enhancements of all of PeopleSoft in the point of sale programs. And when we say point of sale programs, we have to kind of expand that a little bit now because we are venturing into the online payment solution area, which is more and more important because of COVID, of course. A little bit about how we are set up and configured. We just went live with Tools 857.12. We are on the finance side. We are current through image 30. We have selectively taken pieces through image 32. HCM is current through image 31, and ELM is on image 18. We have Oracle Linux. We are in the process of updating to our database to 19C. That was supposed to go live, but we had to delay that because of some other issues. We do use PTF, and I'm a part of a team that has, we actually have reached out to both other areas like the University of Minnesota and the state of Minnesota, and we try to share our ideas about how to use the product. We have sat in on some of the use tests or meetings that they hold, and we've had the state come over to see how we use the product. So locally trying to share in that product, and I know that's a hot topic. I've seen a lot of presentations on that, but I wanted to point out that we are in that space. By no means would I say we are experts at it, but we are involved in using that and developing our team on that product. We are in the process of implementing an online payment solution. We have Paymentus as our back-end payment provider. We have around that area, we have a clinic that uses software that they do their billing through. They wanted to use Paymentus just as the back-end provider. Our team is supporting that, but of course, none of that happens without it coming through our general ledger as an enterprise system. And so the back-end treasury and items back there were worked on for that pilot program, and now we're starting to move on to what we call the e-billing side of it, where people actually use our billing solution, the PeopleSoft billing, to go forward. And then we use Inova as our point of service cashiering application. Hey, Edgar, I don't know if you're making noise back there, but I'm hearing a little bit of noise. On the Inova cashiering application, we have an interface that comes into our general ledger with that. And so it does not operate isolated by itself. It interfaces into our system to make the transactions to the ledger. As you can see on this slide, all of the different finance modules and HCM modules that we have in play today, we do use Portal. And so everyone at the county logs in through our single portal for employees. And then we also have a Supplier Portal for an external work into to use our strategic sourcing and our e-procurement in our supplier contracts area. And as a part of the online payment solution, we will be spinning up the customer portal. And we can talk a little bit about that later on in our presentation here. I do want to talk a little bit about what our phased approach has been. So our first phase of going into this new world was during our upgrade to Tools 855. We actually, at that point, did a huge jump in the user interface. And we implemented over 15 home pages and tiles within those home pages. At the time that we did that, PeopleSoft had not delivered a lot of home pages, and so we created our own, and I'll show you what some of those look like. We do have Fluid Work Centers in play for both billing and AR, and I can talk a little bit about why we don't have Fluid for everything. As our second phase, I highlighted that you can't forget about when you're getting current. And in the past, Hennepin has separated doing their tools upgrade and getting current images. And so annually we get current. We have gotten current a few times now since we implemented. And we also do selective adoption on the finance side. The HR side is under the impression that they want to get current with every image as long as it fits into the schedule. And so, of course, when we were doing the tools project, we weren't getting current, but that is coming up on the roadmap here. During our get currents and our selective adoptions, I wanted to highlight that we did implement page and field configuration, and that was the functional analysts on our teams did that work. It wasn't the developers. It was clearly designed and developed for our functionals to be able to use. And I can talk through how we have done that later on in the presentation. Our third phase, and what we were going to highlight mostly today, is our upgrade to Tools 857. We implemented in this part Classic Plus, event mapping, and some more page and field configuration. And upcoming, what we see in our future around the fluid approach is implementing more fluid pages and mobility. And specifically, I wanted to highlight the fluid supplier portal will be coming up next in our roadmap. That's going to happen hopefully by the end of the summer. And then as we get into mobility, we have had people asking, of course, because of everyone working remotely, how can they access our system in a mobile way? And there are some policies in place that need to be put in place as an enterprise. I think that's probably being jump started a little bit quicker now because of our remote ability. If that's a word, I just made that one up. So I just want to talk a little bit first about our phase one. When we implemented Tools 855 and we went and implemented all these home pages and tiles, we created those in HCM and Fin and in Portal. And in fact, our portal actually hosts our employee and manager home pages. That has proven to be a little bit of a challenge, and we're going to be shifting those over into sitting in HCM itself instead of in the portal. We do allow our users to personalize their home pages and to add tiles to their home pages. The delivered home pages that we have are locked down in both the tiles that exist on them, and the placement of those tiles are in a fixed position, but you can add any tiles to those if you wish, and you can create your own home page and add tiles to that. And you can do that by either copying those tiles that we have that exist, or of course through navigating on the nav bar and placing that navigational page to your home page. I wanted to say that we've given a presentation on the phase one part of this before, and everyone almost always asks us, how did you handle the change management? What did you do? Our users are so freaked out about this, and I will tell you that it was the easiest switch, I think, that we've made to our organization of over 9,000 employees. So I say that so that people are brave enough to go ahead and make the change if you haven't yet. We did very minimal communication ahead of time. We did host sessions to share what we were going to be doing the week before we went live. And the week after we went live, we went ahead and had open set up, open walk-in sessions where people could come, and of a size of 9,000, we had about 30 people actually walk in and ask us questions. And it was more around the employee and the manager home pages than it was around the finance side of what we did. So here's an example of what our employee homepage looks like. You probably wonder, why didn't we take the delivered employee homepage? We have a lot of angst in our organization around the way timesheets look, and that is still holding us back from taking the delivered page. And we are hoping to take that in our upcoming image, Get Current. Along that same line of the employee homepage, then we have a manager homepage as well. I want to point out that we do use news tiles for communicating, and we love to use our news tiles. We love the ability to be able to use it as a text tile and enter HTML into that. With our new update to 857, I want to point out, if anyone has noticed this, there's plenty of item or issues out there under the bug that you have to whitelist certain HTML tags in order for your news tile or any kind of text tile to work now. And we found out about that, and that's kind of a real bummer that that restriction got put in. On the finance and purchasing area, so in my area, so on the HCM side, we have an employee homepage and a manager homepage, and I think we have, like for our payroll contacts, we have a homepage. But then if you look in the finance side, this is where we really went crazy on homepages. We have a finance and purchasing general homepage, which I'm showing here. So any finance purchasing user in our system, which we have over 1,000 of them, they would be able to come here and see a lot of these tiles. We also, like I said, we allowed personalization, and we do not get phone calls at our help desk on this at all. And I know that was some concern by many organizations that they would get so many phone calls about this, but to be, I'll be real, we haven't seen it. We have not experienced that. It is that intuitive, and people are used to being out on the internet and working with similar things like this, that it just works well. For us, I have my homepage. I'm showing that here. It cross platforms for us. Like I said, we have HCM and we have Fin and ELM. I've brought in things from the HCM side, like approvals. I'm a manager. I bring in our performance reviews tile. I have my own timesheets and payroll, but then we have a finance security access tile. And then because of my role, I'm doing a lot of review of access into our finance system. Those forms have to run through me. So quite honestly, I'll go in and look at the user profiles. I do a lot of things where I'm looking up payments, if contracts people are wondering where we're at with contracts. So as you can see, we have many different tiles available for us. And in fact, we have where we've created tiles externally. And I talked about this a little bit on a presentation yesterday, but we have a AP imaging solution that we have in play, and our users need to go there a lot to go look at the actual scanned invoices. And so, yes, you're able to create a tile that links to an external site. So that was phase one. So what happened when we got to phase two, right? So phase two, we really looked at what are some of these tools that are out there, and where we had not really been trained on them, what we had done, or what I had done, is as these tools became available, I held sessions with my team about Page and Field Configurator. There was a video that was developed by Oracle that got put out about highlighting that product early on. And so my team watched it, and then my team broke up into pairs, and they went in and started playing around with Page and Field Configurator to see what they could do and what roadblocks did they run into. And I've given presentations on that tool, and I love that tool, to be honest. Event mapping, we haven't dove in as far on this. We do have some examples, mostly in our procurement, ePro area, strategic sourcing area, where we have used event mapping. And then I just put up there AWE because that is something that can be a functional person, but can also get very much deep into the weeds with a developer. And I would say understanding how that needs to be a joint project, and we're looking at that and working with that right now with the Payment Request Center. We have a pilot in play with that product on the finance side, and developing what that workflow looks like. We do have a policy or a hope, I guess, of getting current annually. We know how difficult it can be to jump from many images and what a chore that is to evaluate. So we get current annually on the finance side. Like I said, we do selective adoption when we're not in the middle of a major project. So generally we're doing a couple of those selectively, and that runs through our normal migration process. We don't take the system down for that at all. And then we have the selective adoption, like I said, in between. But then we have also AP imaging. We went and updated that system. We use FileNet on the back end for the storage. We scan, just so people are clear here, we scan images. They're scanned into the system, not into PeopleSoft, but they're scanned into FileNet, and we make our users go to that system to manage. But that system is actually reading PeopleSoft on the back end to populate a lot of the information. So it's populating the supplier and it's populating the purchase order information and everything else. Our second phase to that will be for, once that information is reviewed, for it to get then populated into the voucher for creating a payment, the finalized payment. Our point of sale product, Inova, and then our online payment, Paymentus, and that's ongoing right now. We're just getting into the thick of it. I'm hoping that we have something up and running for a pilot program on the eBilling side here this year. So phase 3, as you can see there, we went live with that on May 18th. We had previously hoped for an earlier go live, but we had some issues with our technical environments, and we felt that delaying it would probably be better. We only delayed it a couple weeks. As a part of this phase, we really looked at Classic Plus. We had not turned that on yet. And we went in assuming that we were going to turn everything on, and if you didn't, we would document why we didn't turn it on. Also, the Supplier Fluid Portal was supposed to be a part of this part of the project, and it did not go live, and we can talk a little bit about that. And then our cloud-based future. We did some, I would say, tiptoeing in the cloud OCI for over the last year, and now we actually have an RFP being put together to do a one lower environment. A little bit about our approach. So over time here, our approach has been, we like to educate our team, and so we did that last year. We brought in an outside resource to do a week-long training of Tools A57. We had our BA group review for a few months, and then the BAs and the developers then collaborated together by module. So we have a paired up system. We have less developers than we do BAs, and so it's usually kind of a 2-to-1 ratio there. And then we went ahead and did our environmental testing, where we moved from our proj environment to our stage, or test, and then to our stage. And excuse me, to talk a little bit about our environments and projects in our proj environment, that's where we do a majority of our work as business analysts. We are in there evaluating, we are in there doing a lot of testing all the way through, because we want to find as much as possible there before we migrate into our next environment. It's in the test stage that, or a test environment, that we would bring in some outside users, and we did some of that this time, and we learned from mistakes of not doing that a little broader this time, and it's probably going to be a part of our lessons learned. So Edgar, do you want to talk a little bit about the team?
Yes. So just a little bit background, and most of this presentation is actually going to be done by Pam. I'm just going to talk a little on the team that we work with within our Office of Budget and Finance. Now, as Pam has mentioned, most of the implementation is done internally. So the team implements 100% of this. We did it all remotely because of COVID. We have three teams. We have the IT team, that's the tech developers, that's the system admins, the database analysts, led by an IT manager. And then we also have the finance team, which is led by Pam, and she has about 9 functionals. We also have an HCM, ELM, and a portal team. This is actually functional BAs. There are about 10 of them. We have a QA who does our QA work. He is also in charge of the issues log, issue resolution, making sure that the functionals have set up all their tests for each different environment. One of the differences between the finance and HCM BAs is that finance will work more in the proj environments. HCM like data that is a bit closer to what we have in prod, so that they can run a lot more payrolls through that. And so they work more in the test environment. That's when we move and do a one-day mock so that we can match exactly what we want to do in prod in our stage environment. We also have a communications and training group. There's two of them, and they're in charge of mapping up what kind of communication is needed. Obviously, we have 9,000 people, 9,000 plus people, and so we need to figure out who needs to get what information. We share some of our environments. We need to figure out who needs to know that some of these environments are not going to be available at a particular time. We also have the training team that's led by an IT supervisor, and they do the videos showing how to set up your homepage. We have to do a retraining of that. We had to show what are the changes that are going to be seen when people move from the 855 to 857 12 team. At this point, I was the project manager for this particular project, and it was just a project. There was no, it wasn't, we didn't do it like an agile kind of thing. We just did a waterfall. Next slide. So some of the visual changes that you're going to be seeing later on in the presentation. One of the things that we were looking at was the logging screen. And you will see some visual changes in terms of access. We use JAWS. And so we have a group that has to use the JAWS or accessibility. And so they're able to put in, or they're able to look at the accessibility page and switch that on for themselves. And then removal of the hamburger to 3 dots will show you that. I remember the last time we did our updates, we had a user team come in so that we would find out what kind of things people would see on the pages that we were changing and let us know whether it was an improvement or not. We now have the notification flag, but the notification flag was just put in there this time with the 857 changes, but it does not bring up anything at this point. We are working on trying to update that so that it can provide notifications to managers, especially when it comes to approvals. With the Classic Plus, there's been a softening. What we've noticed is that there's been a softening of the pages. There's those round edges, there's drop-down buttons. The entire page looks much better than it was. And then exporting to Excel change, we can also do that with the new 857 look. All right, this is what I've been talking about. On the left, that's our before. As you can see, it showed when we refreshed, what's the date. And one of the changes, as you can see, is the enable accessibility mode. Some of our people who use that can now be able to log that in and check that, and then it would actually talk to you with the JAWS software. All right, the changes that we were talking about. The hamburger changes, the 3 dots. Now it's 3 dots. It never used to be the 3 dots. It used to be like 3 lines. And then the navigator turns to a compass, right? And then we have the notifications flag. You want to talk a little bit more about that page?
Yeah,
The
so as
super
far as the
user FM?
notifications flag, I just want to point out at Hennepin, we have a really good security team that is worried about how, right now, I'll just back up. The notifications flag is not enabled completely. Like, it exists, but you have to have the security in order to see it. We have not rolled it out completely to all users, and that's why I'm not showing it here on the screenshot. And I just wanted to talk through a little bit about, for us, we use a lot of email notifications to users. We've done that since we brought up the product. And then in each of those email notifications where it's telling them, you know, you need to click here in order to go to your approve an expense report or approve someone's time card, or not time card, but their review or something like that. There's a lot of angst now, of course, in the world about links and emails, and we need to do a change in our mindset about how are we going to use that notification flag and getting people to always log into Apex to see that they have work that needs to be done. Right now, people don't log in there every day. Our team does, of course, and a lot of finance people do, but normal HR managers do not. And so the assumption that they do and that they would go to that notification flag to see what work is outstanding for them is a change that we are still trying to deal with. We struggle with, and we're hoping to do something with that here in the near future. I had already kind of talked a little bit about the homepage and how I had designed my own homepage. I forgot to point out, and this is a good example. As you can see, the tile that says Pagelet configuration is just a generic image. So what we had done in the first round is after we went live, we went to go see who was making home pages, what tiles were they putting on their home pages, and which of those tiles did not have images attached to them. And then we went in the background and put images on there so that people would have something that is a little more appealing than a generic looking piece of paper. So this is obviously from when I navigated. I wanted to, I believe this is for Pagelet configuration in work centers. And so I wanted to easily get there. I navigated there, I added it to my homepage, and there you go. I just don't have a very fun image to go along with it. And there's those items. Here's the Classic Plus. Edgar, do you want me to talk about this, or?
Yes,
Okay.
this is that page that we discussed that on how we decided to do the entire Classic Plus. So,
And as you can see, we switch, it switches to green. It's got rounded corners and everything else. If you go to Tools 858, if anybody's been monitoring that and seeing that, everything changes. A lot of the tiles and home pages, the coloration is changing. So we're a little behind on that, but I'm not sure how many people have got to 858 yet. I did want to I put this slide in around Classic Plus setup. I thought it's important to talk about for those people that have gone there or are thinking about going there. Enterprise components is the navigation to common utilities to Classic Plus setup. This allows you to see which ones have been delivered, disabled, or currently are disabled. So our teams went in right away to look at what was delivered as disabled. So each member came in and they filtered on it to look at what was disabled, and they converted it to enabled so that they could see what it looked like, and then make a determination of why they would go there or not go there. It's a quick, easy process. You go ahead and select it. You determine that, yes, I want to turn it on, and then you go ahead and run it, and it just runs in the background and makes the change to Classic Plus. It's pretty easy. My functionals are the ones that went through and did this evaluation, and we documented it, and that's what's going to come up next here. We created a spreadsheet then in the project to look at not only what was delivered, disabled, and Classic Plus, but anything else that my team wanted to look at. And so we articulated that here. We first started doing this back in November, and we were on image 11, tools 857.11. When we went to 12, things changed. So things that were delivered disabled in 11 ended up being enabled in 12. So that was kind of a weird discovery for us, but we wanted our team to be able to articulate what they were doing, why they were doing it, and if they were taking it. And this was really about what is our scope. We have worries by our project manager that we're getting scope creep, and same thing with our technical team. Edgar, do you want to talk about HCMs?
Yeah, yes, I'm just laughing because of what you said. So, from Pam's, what Pam is trying to say is, so last year when we were doing our what is that? Our uh, going into fluid, what happened is I, as a PM, just put in together a scope plan, and just using the PM way of doing things without including the BAs completely during the process. So this year, what we decided was to have this spreadsheet so that everyone, and by everyone I mean the stakeholders, the IT managers and the IT supervisor for communication and training, so that everyone would sign off on what we really want to do using this spreadsheet by looking through all the pages for the Fin portal according to what Pam's team had, and also this HCM ELM portal team. As you can see, most of the changes for the HCM and ELM team who do their get current every time there's an image update, we only had a change with the branding, look and feel. So our pages did not have the Hennepin County logos, and so we had to work with central communication team to make sure that that branding was done, so that there was not too much of a change when people signed in. Another change was making sure that the tools 857, as I mentioned, works with the job access with speech, the JAWS tools. As you can see from the reason why I put that in as an example was on line 51, as you can see for the time and labor team, which was a time code, we switched everything to custom classic version so that we could see how it looked. And as we decided that we were, some of it we decided that we were not taking, and some of it we decided that we were taking. And so that's how we created the scope using our good old spreadsheets.
So a little bit
Timeline.
about the timeline. Go ahead.
Yes. So in terms of the timeline, we were doing a get current last year, and beginning of January, I think of 2019, we were doing get currents for all our modules. So HCM, ELM, Fin. We were doing a one-time get current, and part of it was doing the tools patch. And that was, I think it was 857. I think we started with 04 or something like that. And as we were proceeding through, we noticed that we needed a little bit more training for our technical team. And that's, as Pam mentioned, that is why we stopped and did some change processes, removed this whole particular project and decided to start this afresh in July. So July, there was a training of the tech stuff, and we wanted to make sure that by the time we were getting to November, April timeframe, our 85709 environments were ready for the BAs to go in and review what was in there. What changes were going to be made, what did they want to take as per the scope. By the time we got to January, when we were ready to now really start the project, we realized that tools 85712 was out. So we decided that we wanted the newest tools, which was 12. And so we took that and revised the project timelines to then go live. I think it was May, 2 weeks before the May 18th timeline. So in November to December, we determined the scope. January, we stood up the environments. February, March, there was a lot of testing. And on April, we had a mock go live that we did. And we'll show you the issues that we got during our mock go live. We had a lot of issues at that time and decided to do a lot of changes due to COVID-19 and some technical issues that happened due to our supplier portal. Pam, you want to take over the next one, please?
Yep. So as far as our issues went, we always have an issues log. We run this, we track all the issues within a SharePoint site, and we do it by application area. Some of the issues, I just wanted to summarize some of the issues that we found. A lot of them ended up being environmental, servers not being set up properly. We have kind of a complicated infrastructure, and like I said, we sit within the Office of Budget and Finance. We do manage some portion of the server farm, but we also have to work with central IT in order for that to work well. And that coordination, sometimes we have a breakdown in communication or what our actual needs are. We found that during the process of migrating, we were missing data. We were actually missing the attachments. Ended up being that there was we weren't sized properly to handle all the attachments that we have in the finance area. And the system ended up well, I think somebody might have clicked through a few things and a couple of errors, and it ended up being that those were not there. And so we had to work through what was our problem and get those back up and running. We have problems with the classic work centers and error loading them. I wanted to point that out to anyone with this tool set. What happens is it comes up and says issues loading, and all you have to do is tell the user to hit refresh on the page, and then it does load. Right now, that's our workaround. I believe it's a known issue, and of course, if we could move from classic work centers to fluid work centers, we would be in a much better situation. We had SQRs that were failing. We had some batch job process monitor issues. We had bad Micker for some checks, for our checks. We have Appian, and we found out that the checklist didn't include having the Appian masking reapplied properly, and basically migration issues from environment to environment. Of all that stuff I talked about there was only a few things that were really on the PeopleSoft product. The other things were all on us and our process. And I'm sure others have this as well. I just wanted to point that out. Most of it was us and not them.
And I'd like to point out that's why our phase 3 is all about OCI.
Yeah, we do want to get there. So I'm just going to go real quick, and I wanted to just give you a visual of where we are at here. Now, hopefully you can still see my screen. Is that true, Edgar? Can you see it?
Yep,
Yes,
looks
I
good.
can.
Okay, all right. So I'm in our Proj environment, and as you can see, here we are, my homepage, and I've made that be my default homepage. But I also wanted to point out, a lot of people ask, we have created a whole lot of homepages ourselves, and I'm just kind of screening through there, our billing, accounts receivable, our general ledger, grants, project costing, rec receiver. So we created all of these ourselves. we delivered my homepage for our employees, and they can use that if they don't want to create their own and call it like I did, Pam's homepage. We do have a position management one on the HR side. We have employee expense contacts and OBF payable team, so purchasing and treasury. So I just wanted to point out those are all of the home pages that we have created ourselves. What in this lower environment, of course, I can see all the delivered home pages as well. And so please note that we look at these delivered home pages, and great that they're delivered, that they've created tiles, and we look at them and decide, hey, is there a tile there that would benefit our users? When we sat down determining what our home pages and tiles were going to look like, we did sit down with all the finance users to figure out what they do, and actually put 3 users in front of our old system and then put them in front of our new home pages and tiles and had them navigate and watch to see if they could navigate to what they needed to do and if it was clear enough for them. We've tweaked them a little bit here and there with people's requests, but I do want to just show you that we do have all of those delivered home pages here, and like I said, we go to those, we evaluate them. And here's an example of that. Our OBF accounts payable team, we have centralized AP team. There's a group of 3 core people that do voucher processing, but there's probably about 8 people on that team that are doing all kinds of other things. What we did in our personal or in our homepage is we actually did grab the operational analysis tile that was delivered. And as you can see, it's now populating on the fly pretty darn quick with all of the statistics to help managers manage the situation in that area. You can see that the pivot grids are incorporated. It shows the people's names. I'll tell you that you know, you need to update and put in time frames here. So there is going into the finance setup in order to articulate what is the time frame you want to use. Right now it's using, you know, like the last 3 months. So it is, I find this to be helpful. I do also find that we would like to tweak some of these tiles. That's on our list of things to do. I'm just going to go ahead and go back. I'm going to dare to use that back button. It actually worked. So the other thing, you know, we have this payment request review. We are in the process of rolling out the payment request center. We also have tiles that we use for linking out to outside resources. And one thing that we did with that, we were worried when we created our navigation collections that when you would land here, that you would go outside to an external site right away, and people would get confused about, are they in Apex, are they not in Apex? So we put a folder at the level, so that's why you're not seeing anything here. As soon as I click into that other area, it brings me out to SharePoint, and it actually does bring me out to a separate tab. We made sure that it brings you out to a separate one and you're able to navigate right back. We also incorporated being able to send emails right here in a nav collection. Hopefully that sparks some people interest in what they've done and what they're looking to do. We also use Cognos reporting, and so if you go to our reports tab or a tile, you'll see that you can link out to our AP imaging. You can also link out to our Cognos reports. All of this will put you out our board approval claims register. There's a lot of different external links that we have here and have incorporated. I just want to point out too that you can see where that notification flag is popping in and out. I'm just going to do that real quick again. When I'm on this page, you can see the notifications flag. Nothing's underneath it. when I'm out here, you're not seeing it in general consumption. I'm just going to go ahead and you can see that we use our news tiles, and it's a great way for us to communicate to our employees. We're doing that in both the employee homepage, manager homepage. One that we really like to do it on the finance side is our general ledger. It's here that we incorporate and talk about our month close. We have specific COVID-19 activities occurring, as you can imagine, and we have some direction here about what you want to do around that. So as you can see, we have work centers. That's another thing that people have questioned us in the past about. What are you doing? And I'm going to demonstrate that no page configuration data just by clicking in there. But if I go ahead and hit my refresh screen on that URL, it's now going to, okay, it should have populated. It's not going to do it because I'm live here. Generally, just by refreshing that, it will populate. And I just need to go to a different tab. I just wanted to point out work centers. This is a classic work center. The reason we haven't converted over is because there's a particular work item that hasn't gone to the fluid. We suspect that Oracle hasn't included that in fluid because of fluid approvals, but we have found that fluid approvals as they exist today are not good, quite fits our business processes yet. And so we're going to be evaluating and seeing how we can get that better for our users. And again, links below in a work center as well. We have them going out to external places like our accounting manual, SharePoint sites, our Cognos reporting. So with that, I just wanted to show a little bit about what our system looks like. I think people like to see that visual. I'm just going to go ahead and launch back into presentation. Let me just flip it here. And there we go. So a little bit about the communication plan. So we were having issues, of course. Generally, we would have communicated a little bit further than 1 week prior. Generally, on the finance side, I like to communicate 2 weeks prior. I give a heads up to our CFO group, and so they're finance users, because we actually take the system down over the weekend, and we take it down early on Friday at noon after our bank interfaces have gone. So this time we only communicated 1 week prior. Ended up being not that big of a deal. We communicated to all users. There's a general communication that goes out to all users. There's one that specifically goes out to finance to specifically call out those things that are used by our finance users, like how the export to Excel button moves from the right side to the left side. It looks a little different. We wanted to highlight that for our users. We communicate to our IT help desk so that they know any of our integration points. Our Cognos team that's reading the database and populating Cognos reports. Anyone that has a database view, even though there are just a few of them, like our imaging group, we want them to know that we're going down. Our purchasing department, we want to make sure that they don't have any bid closings due on the Monday of go live, because if we have any issues, that would not be good, and they would have to extend those. And so we give them a heads up as well as our supplier portal. We do messaging early on there for our external users, so they realize the portal will be down as well. A little bit about our training and change management, like Edgar had mentioned. We sent an email out to all people. We updated our SharePoint help site with new images and documentation, and then we created a video, updated that video to again put in front of people how they need to create home pages and how they can create them and personalize them. And just quickly on our lessons learned, from my perspective, we should have done a get current with the tools. We're running into time issues with prioritizing and getting a number of projects done. And we found that with our with our tools, we needed some image updates in order to make certain things work well in tools. So that was a bummer of a process to go through. We need better technical checklists to ensure our environments are set up as expected. Our supplier portal, we had to pull that out. We weren't able to go live with the Fluid Supplier Portal as we had hoped for. Our organization is working and moving towards a new security front end product, and is doing that, delayed that part of it. So that was a problem. And then limitations on file length. We found that when people are on our supplier portal and they're adding attachments, and those attachments names need to be a certain file length. If they're not, we're having failures. So that's just something I wanted to point out a little bit. As I said, what's next? We're doing our supplier portal and our AppScan Azure business to consumer. We call it the ABC project. We're getting current this fall with all pillars. We have a payment request center pilot going on right now. We have an enterprise online payment solution with eBilling and Paymentus going on right now. We are upgrading our database, and that should be happening next month, July 10th. And then we are also looking at the Oracle Cloud for non-prod environment by the end of the year. And I feel like I kind of rushed there, but I'm running up against the end of the hour, and I know I'm not sure if there's any questions at all.
We do have a couple questions if you want to try to get through those.
Yep.
Alrighty, so let's see, we have a couple minutes and a few questions, so we'll see if we can get through all of these before we have to close out. Just a reminder, if you do have questions, just submit those through the chat box. So the first question, how much time was planned or allotted for each phase?
So each phase was its own separate project. And in this last one, our time frame, like we said, we began in November and we went live in May. And so it was more about 6 months. We were hoping to shorten that up some, but we had other projects that were in place that caused us. I would say, I believe phase 1, where we went with that tools project, also was about 6 months. And when we do get currents, we try to shorten those up to 3 to 4 months. And I can say that our when we're doing selective adoption, those projects are more around 2 months.
So the phases, I think to answer that question, the phases were actually projects on their own. The first one, I think 6 months, second 6 months, and then this one also took 6 months, if that can help with that answer.
Perfect. Let's see, are you considering using drop zones now that you are on 857?
Yes, actually, the payment request center, we wanted to use a drop zone on the payment request center. And so our team that's why we wanted our team to get trained. I believe there's also a drop zones more and more are being delivered. And I think there's something around the requisitions as well that would be of interest for us.
Did you have custom pages that you created in Classic Plus?
We did not. We did not go down that route. We have custom pages, but we did not convert them. We're hoping with our get current, I mean, during this process, like by using page and field configurator and some of this event mapping and everything else, some of those tools that are available to us, as we get current, we keep evaluating and figuring out how can we remove customizations so that we don't have a custom page, and so we don't end up bringing them, having to do anything further with those with Fluid, or it's just so far down in our line of work that needs to be done.
Let's see, next one, were the BAs and other, oh, sorry, it moved on me. Were the BAs and other team members 100% allocated to the upgrade?
Absolutely not.
No.
Our team is spread across many things, and so as that project was going on, we're still doing production support. We are working on other projects like that online payment solution. We were working on payment request center. We were working on AP imaging updates and testing, and right now our Cognos product is being upgraded. So we are never 100% to anything.
And I think that question speaks to capacity and resource management. Yes, to the person who asked the question, we are trying to figure out how to handle that. It is something that we've been working on for a long time.
Did you update your training docs when you went to Fluid and Classic Plus?
Yes, we updated our, that's part of what each BA is responsible for doing, is putting in those additional screenshots in our training docs and everything else. And we updated the videos as well.
Have you created any Fluid nav collections?
So the nav collections that we have on our tiles, those are all, I guess if that's what you mean by fluid nav collection, or nav collections that include fluid pages. So we created all the nav collections that are in all of our tiles. And the functionals did that, by the way.
Did you have browser caching issues in tests and or production at go live?
Yeah, so we ended up having our technical team figure that out. We ran into that with 855, and our lessons learned was we needed to be able to push a cache. I don't understand this technically, but we did refresh everyone's cache, but we also had documentation on how people could do that themselves if they needed to.
Yeah, so we have a deployment plan when we go live. Sorry about the dog. I'll talk real quick. So we have a deployment plan that we go through, and at the beginning we did the refresh cache, and there's a way that they spoke with the consultant. I think Kyle Benson. I don't know how many people know him, but we spoke with him, and there is a way that we also refresh cache once we're done with the deployment during go live.
Any tips for security setup in Fluid?
Oh, my tip would be to allocate about a month to evaluating the security. We're still struggling with that. I would say, and I talked with someone yesterday about this in their organization as well. It's the biggest gotcha. So just make sure that you review. First off, you have to figure out what has been delivered and how do you get access to the page, and then who is going to which roles. Well, most of us have custom roles set up, right? And so then you have to determine which permission list, custom permission lists, and ultimately which role gets access to that.
And we don't have a security person whose job that is to do. So that's where we also have an issue.
Did you upgrade your tools from 855 to 85712?
Yes, yep, we went from 855.21, maybe it was, to
Yes.
857.12.
And from the same person, how long did that take?
That was a 6-month project.
6 months.
Again, from the same person, how long did it take you from 85711 to 85712?
So they applied 85711 in November. Is that right, Edgar?
Right.
And then in January they did 12, and for probably 3 weeks in January they were busy trying to get everything up and running accurately on the infrastructure side, and then our BAs were able to get into the system late January, beginning of February.
let's see. I have two more just in case anyone does submit any questions. I am going to have to take these two and then log off because I will have somebody that needs to get on this GoToWebinar for the next
Yep.
session. Did you use SSO authentication for external links? What kind of external authentication solution was used?
Uh,
What
that's
do
a
you
good
mean by,
question.
yeah,
Single
so
sign-on?
so
Do
we
we
do
use?
have we do not have single sign-on implemented. So when a user enters Hennepin County and they log into the network every day, they also have to log into PeopleSoft separately, but it uses the same password setup. When we do our links, our external links, what I meant by that is the external link goes to a URL that can either be internal to our network or external to like a bank site or some other reference site. And when it goes external like that, then they would have to log into whatever application on their own. We do not have single sign-on for that.
Do you have IT BAs or just business BAs?
Good question. We are ITBAs, and that causes confusion sometimes. So we are ITBAs. That is a job class that they have. There's a lot expected of them at both the technical side of it as well as understanding business. And all my BAs have gone through. Most of them have gone through just regular BA training that Hennepin offers.
Awesome. Well, those are all of our questions. Big thank you to our presenters today and a lot of great questions from our attendees. The recording will be made available. Look for your daily emails, and that will link out to how you can access all of these recordings. Make sure you go check out the agenda for what sessions are left today and everything that will be running through the rest of the month. Thanks again to everybody for joining, and I will talk to you all soon. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.